Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 14 of the Floral Craft Countdown, which means today is already the final day. I hope you've enjoyed the projects I've been sharing with you over the past 2 weeks, and we're finishing with something very impressive and a little bit on the large side. This is a giant papercraft sunflower wreath. It can be hung up with ribbon, and it measures 14 by 14 and a quarter inches. It's so bright and cheerful with these beautiful sunflowers and daisies. But don't worry about that large size because it can still be cut from a Cricut Joy Extra or an Explore Air 2 or 3 or a Maker or Maker 3 on your regular A4 US letter or 12 by 12 cardstock. And the reason it can do that is that it comes in sections on the design. So all of the big pieces cut as 4, and then we'll be gluing them together to make the final giant size. So let's get started at taking a look at this in Design Space to see how it all works. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Floral Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/floral. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you have missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/floral bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Floral Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You will need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Here's how the sunflower wreath looks once it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to get to this stage, check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown, where there's a link to a separate video and tutorial on how to upload SVGs into Cricut Design Space. If we open up the group down here, you can see all the different pieces of the sunflowers. Keep going all the way down, and then you can start seeing the base pieces, which, as I just showed you, are split up into 4. The design loads in at approximately 14 inches wide and 14 and a quarter tall. You can make it smaller if you wish to, and if you want to make it quite a bit smaller, then what I would recommend doing is welding in Design Space the sections that come in 4, because if you're making this really small, then you won't need to cut it into 4. You could join it into 1 and it will fit on your cardstock. For a tutorial on how to do that, check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown and look for the link which is called something along the lines of how to cut layered designs really small. In that separate tutorial, I show you how you can join these pieces of my giant signs and giant wreaths together to cut them at a much smaller size. But for me, I'm going to do it exactly as the size it comes in on. And the beauty of this is there's nothing to change in Design Space. Just go straight ahead, click Make, and done. All right, so we can see here, we can change the paper size in and then move things about if you want to. And I thought I'd just show you this to show that it can be cut on your smaller cardstock. Here it is. You will need 4 sheets for the ones that come in 4 different sizes. And there are quite a few yellows on here. There are 1, 2, 3 different shades of yellow, 2 different shades of green. And you see, it's going to use a lot of cardstock. So just before you start cutting, make sure you've got enough. It's currently showing at 36 different sheets. You might be able to combine some of them by moving them onto other ones to try and use up less space. But it's a giant sign. It's going to need a giant amount of paper to go with it. When you're happy with how everything is looking in Design Space, press Continue to connect to your Cricut and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from your cardstock. Here are all of the pieces of my sunflower wreath cut out. And I've put them into piles depending on what section each piece is for. So I've got all of my base pieces in their relevant colours here, and then each of my sunflowers. And I've already gone through and worked out which pieces go with which sunflower. And I highly recommend doing that at the start because they are very, very similar. So it's kind of a good idea to make sure you've got everything with the right sunflower before you start sticking anything. There are 2 smaller sunflowers and 2 larger sunflowers. The 2 smaller ones are the same size and the 2 larger ones are the same size. They're exactly the same sunflower. So that makes it a little bit easier. And because each one does have 2 the same, I've already gone and stuck one of the big ones and one of the little ones together, just so that this tutorial goes through a little quicker. One way to tell them apart is that when you've got the very bottom layers, you see some of them have got these circle cutouts in them, and then some of them have got square cutouts. The circle pieces all belong to the larger sunflowers, and the squares, here we go, all belong to the smaller sunflowers. So that's a nice easy way for you to tell those bottom layers apart, and then when you get to the more top layers, it's a bit easier to see those ones because they are a bit more obvious which one is small and which one is large. You'll notice when you're putting these together that there are different layers with different numbers of holes in, and that shows you the order they go in. And then you've got a bigger cutout here, and that just helps with the alignment. Otherwise, you'd be there trying to line up the petals for ages. So what I've done is just to show you this one as an example. The very bottom piece is the one with the most holes in it. So we've got 4 squares on this one, and then 1 at the top. The one that will go on top of that has got 3 cutouts, so 1 less. And to know exactly which way around to put it, you can line up the gaps. So line up that big one and the little ones, and then that is exactly aligned on those petals. And then you can work up the layers in that way. This is the one I've already mostly stuck together. So the next one has got 2 cutout squares down the bottom. So you'd line that up so that you know exactly where it goes. I was just trying to make it as easy as possible to see which way around everything should go. But to stick this together, we're going to start with the base pieces. The very bottom ones are the lighter green, so I'll start with that one. Here we go. And there are 4 bits in total. The ones with the circles in will go at the top. That's where we'll be adding the ribbon to hang this up. And then we've got these ones. Can line them up using the triangles, these little cut-out triangles, so they'll line up completely over each other. And then you can also tell if you've got the right piece in the right order, because the very edges here, these little bits where it's got the leaves, that will all overlap and line up perfectly too. Okay, so first we need to glue these bits together and take one piece, it doesn't matter which way round you go, and add the glue down up to where those triangle cutouts are, but no further than that. So I'm just going up to that triangle, up to that very far corner on it, and then take the bit that goes over the top and we can line that up. And then we'll do the same on the next one. I'll zoom in a little bit. It's a bit hard to know the zooming on this one. If I go in too far, you won't be able to see the whole thing, but if I'm too far out, you can't see the details. So we'll try this. I'm going to go up to about where that triangle is. There we go. And then stick over the next part, lining up that triangle and the leaves on the other side. Oop, just moved that. There we go. And then we've got one more. This time we'll need to glue this side and this side at the same time. We don't have a triangle on this one, but there is that little cutout. You can see it's going to match there. So I can go up to that. And there is a triangle on this one. Then this piece, line up the triangle and that little cutout on the top. There we go. And now I'm just going to add a few extra little bits of glue, just to make sure all these sticky out bits are stuck. So we could go down a little bit more on that one. I could have gone down a little bit further with the glue underneath the triangles, but I didn't want to get into the situation where I was adding too much glue that you could see it. So I'd rather do it this way and add little extra bits afterwards. There. Alright, so there is my wreath. Zoom out a bit now. There we go, so you can just about see it all. And then when that's dry, I want to turn it over and add some sticky tape down the join lines to help hold it all in place. So I'll just turn that over. Regular sticky tape down all of these, and it doesn't matter if you go over the triangles, but don't go over this little gap because that actually is part of the design, and don't go over your two hanging up holes. Alright, now we've done that, turn it back around the correct way, and then we can move on to the next base layer, which is the brown. Once again, we've got 4 pieces, and let's line this up. Don't think that was right. That way round. So some of it will match on the outside edges of what you've already got. The 2 with the holes in are obviously the easiest because you can match them up with the holes in here. And we've still got the little triangles on some of them. That's that one, which means this one will be the bottom corner. And that one will go there. I'm going to glue the pieces together first. So we're just gluing the brown bits to the brown. Don't glue it to the green. We will be sticking these on with foam squares, but it's easier if you do the gluing bits first. Doing the same thing as before, work through one at a time. Doesn't matter which side you do first. Get it all lined up nicely. I'm using the green to make sure everything's in the right place. Okay, that stays stuck together. Turn it over, and then I'm not going to add tape down this time because there aren't really any nice solid edges. They've all got the little cutouts to show the wood. So instead we can go straight on to adding the foam squares. These are the foam squares I'm using, but any will do. These are a bit larger than what I'd normally use because the project's a little bit larger than what I'd normally do. And this will need quite a lot of foam squares. We want to make sure everything's really well stuck to give a lot of dimension all the way through. So as well as going around the edges of everything, I'm also going to try and put some in the middle like that. And when it comes to these bits of the wood, I'll move on to some smaller foam squares for those. If you don't have any smaller ones, then you can just cut some of your regular foam squares smaller with a pair of scissors. Here are my slightly smaller foam squares to go in the little twigs. Just a couple. You don't need to add tons and tons. All right, now that my very large amount of foam squares are all on there, it's time to peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. Okay, take your original layer and the new one. We're going to line this up very carefully and then gently drop it down. The reason for gently placing it is that if you're not happy with the positioning, you can pick it up and move it again, and it hasn't actually stuck yet, so you're not going to damage anything. But that's looking pretty good to me. So if you are happy, push down to get all those foam squares really well stuck. Then the one to add next is going to be the green. These don't have the hanging holes, so we'll need to add our ribbon or twine at this point. I've got some green ribbon. I'm going to come in from the back, I think. There we go, because the reason I'm doing it from the back is that both of these are going to be covered up by the sunflowers and the leaves, so you're not going to see the ribbon. And then I can tie that up. I'll do it in a neater bow at some point, but for now, that'll do. And then just tape this onto the back. If you can hear some weird scraping noises, it's my dog who's currently rolling around in his bed on the floor and being very noisy when I'm trying to film. Okay, so that'll hold that in place. And we'll hold it in place a little bit better when we add the sunflowers. But next is the leaves. So let's grab these and get all of them in the right place. Here's where these are all going to go. So now we can add foam squares to the back to bring them out a little bit from the brown. I'll do one on camera just to show, and then I'll pause to do the other three because it's exactly the same thing. So as well as putting them around the edge, just like when we did the main wreath, you want to put a nice amount in the middle too. Like that, and then peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. Okay, and then right, there's that one. When you're putting your foam squares on the two here, try not to put any foam in this section here, otherwise it's not going to go over the ribbon properly. What I am going to do is add a little tiny bit of tape to these, because I know it's going to get covered up, you're not going to be able to see it, just to hold that ribbon a little bit easier. Kind of missed the ribbon with that bit of tape. Let's try that again. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video, get the rest of those stuck, and then we can move on to the sunflowers. I've got all the green bits stuck on now, and I've also done two of the sunflowers like I said I was going to at the beginning, so I'll show you how to do it with the other two, which are my bottom two. And the bottom right one, the largest one, is the one I'll start with. Remember, the largest sunflowers are the ones with the circle cutouts, and the very bottom one is the one that has the four little circles all next to each other. And I'll add glue to this one. To know which way round to put it, you can look at the assembly guide or look at just this layer in Design Space. But for this particular sunflower, it's going this way with this hole on the bottom left, and then the four kind of go around like that. You know you've got it right because it will line up with the edges along here. The next piece is one with 3 holes out of it. And just double check you've got your card the right way around, because all of those holes should line up. You can see the green through. And this one is another glue layer. That definitely makes it easier knowing which way around to put it. The next one is the one with the 2 cutout holes. This is going to be a foam square layer. So turn it upside down and add some foam. Now we can line up those holes again. Got 2 and that one. There. And then on top of that, this one also has 2 cutout holes to show that it belongs to this one. So we'll glue this one on. Be very careful getting the glue around the edges of these petals. They are thin. That's why this Barely Art glue, which comes with tiny little precision needle tips, is very handy. You can also buy needle tip applicator bottles online if your glue doesn't come with a thin nib. This is very fiddly now. Okay, I'm going to push down gently on those petals to try not to smush the glue out. I've done it a little bit there, but it does dry clear, so it doesn't matter too much if it does come out. There's that one. Alright, next, this one doesn't have any holes in, but it's quite easy to see which way around this goes because it's got these 2 tiny petals, which will line up with the 2 tiny petals on there. You can see how that lines up. This one is another foam square layer. Okay, so these 2 petals, 2 little ones, that's how to know where to put it. There. And then the detail layer on top is a glue layer. Okay, put that one into place. Like that. And then lastly, for this sunflower, we've got the middle bit, which comes in 2 bits. These are the hardest to work out which way around they go. Okay, first I'll glue the smaller bit, not the smaller bit, the bit with holes, onto the bit without holes. And what you want to do to make this a little easier is try and look for kind of standout shapes that might look a little bit different to you. For example, that's quite a big kind of dent in the outside. So you can try and find that matching dent, which I think is there. Yeah. And that shows which way around to put it. But if you can't work it out, because it is fairly tricky, don't worry, it doesn't really matter too much. It won't notice that much if it's not entirely put on the right way. And then I'll foam square this into the middle of the sunflower. Again, this is a tricky one to get in the right place, but if you don't quite line it up, it doesn't really notice. So don't spend ages turning it every which way. I'll try for a few seconds, but that's all I'm going to give it. You might notice at some point, like, I think that for me, everything just lines up with these little bits on here. But if you don't quite get it, it's fine. Okay, there's that sunflower done. Now moving on to one of the smaller ones. These are the ones with the square holes. So I've got my 4 on there. Is that the right way round? Yes, it is. This one is glued. These do actually have the same number of layers as the bigger sunflowers, and they're going to go together in exactly the same way. So I'm only going to do a few of these on camera. I just wanted to show the difference between these ones having the squares rather than the circles. And then the rest I'll just stick together after. So there's that one. And the next one with the 3 holes, this one is also glued, just like with the bigger sunflower. There. And then the rest of it I've already stuck together following the same concept. So you're foaming the solid layers, gluing the detail layers. And then this one here has the 2. So you'd foam this onto here, which I am going to do. I've made it more difficult for myself now because I'm not going to be able to see when I've got those squares lined up. But I'll get there. It just might need a little bit of rotating around. It'll be that way round. Right, let's add that foam. There it is. Okay, we'll zoom out. And that's all 4 sunflowers on. Looking beautiful. Just a couple more pieces left to go with the little flowers to go around the edge. So we've got one that will go at the top. And then a few smaller ones. I think that's that one. And then one there. And one here. So this is covering up those triangles for us that we were using to line things up at the beginning. It's not quite right. Have I flipped it round? Yeah. If you can't get it to line up, try going the other way around. It might be that you're just holding it the wrong way up. But that's good. So now I can foam square all of these bits on. Oh, I think I've just done exactly what I said and done that the wrong way round. Oh, I can't get it to line up now. What have I done? Ah, yes, I had it upside down. Right, let's take that foam off and try again. If a project's got to have little bits that go wrong, it might as well be the last day of the countdown, right? Now I've managed to stick my foam squares to each other. Right, let's get this on. Ah! This was supposed to be the easy bit. Right, line up, stick, done. Let's do the same on these other ones. There's that one. Then we've got the ones on the side. One on this side and one on the top. And the top one. This one should be the easiest, she says. There. And then we've got matching white pieces to go on the top to give these a bit more detail. And let's try and get these the right way around this time. That one, that one. That one. And that one. That was easier. These will all be glued on top of the yellow. And there we go. That is my gorgeous giant sunflower wreath all finished. It took a little bit of patience, a little bit of frustration, but we got there in the end and it's all ready to be hung up. And that concludes the projects for this floral craft countdown. I really hope you've enjoyed all the flowery projects I've been sharing over the past 2 weeks. Please let me know in the comments which one was your favourite, and also if you've made any of them, which one did you enjoy making the most? The next Craft Countdown event will be the Halloween Craft Countdown, which is one that I run every year, and that will be happening in September. Details will be released in August about that one. But if you've got any Halloween papercraft ideas for projects, please leave me a comment and let me know what you'd like to see, as I'm working on those projects at the moment, and it would be lovely to be able to get some of your ideas in. But for now, thank you again for watching along. I really hope you have enjoyed all of these videos, and come back very soon for even more Cricut fun. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!